this video, we'll explore the mental state of a trans woman in her 50s named Taylor. Taylor hasn't been heard from in more than 10 years, and her mother requested the reading to learn how Taylor is doing. Stay tuned and learn what I discovered. Hi everybody, I'm Sue Ellen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we're learning how to read the tarot one card at a time. In today's video, we'll be using a 3-card spread to look at someone's mental state, and I'm going to call this person Taylor, although it is not her real name. I will be using the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot, and there is a link below. I performed this reading at the request of her mother, who is somebody I've known for at least 20 years. The mother contacted me recently because she was desperate for information about her adult child, who is in their mid-50s. Before I continue, I want to say that we are talking about someone who is trans, and I've done my best to get the pronouns correct. I also want to let you know that I'm getting over a respiratory infection, and I apologize for my voice. My client's son transitioned from male to female more than 20 years ago when he was in his mid-30s, and although she was completely shocked, she tried to be as supportive as she could be. They had always had an excellent relationship, and as a man, her son was sweet and incredibly supportive to my client as she went through some very difficult times in her life. Sadly, their relationship became rocky after he transitioned, and as a woman, Taylor's personality was very different. Taylor was very angry and did a lot of cussing to the point that she could be described as verbally abusive. My client tried her best to be in touch with Taylor and her grandchildren. However, she never heard back, and eventually, to preserve her own mental health, she had to give up. She asked me if I could give her any information on Taylor's mental state. So here we go. The question is, what is Taylor's current mental state? I am using a past, current, future 3-card spread. Card number 1 looks at the past influences and will hopefully give us some background into what led up to Taylor's current mental state. Card number 2 will look at Taylor's current mental state, essentially what she is thinking and feeling today. And card number 3 is the future outlook. It will give us some information about what Taylor may be experiencing in the future. So let's move ahead. Card number 1 looks at past influences. As I said earlier, it will give us information on what led up to Taylor's current mental state and why the relationship with her mother no longer exists. The card I pulled was Strength reversed. In the upright position, Strength is an amazing card. It indicates someone who has a lot of inner strength and has mastery over their emotions. They are a person who embodies compassion, empathy, and kindness, even when they're faced with difficult situations. This is very much how my client described Taylor before she transitioned. When I look at the upright card, I can see a loving parent-child relationship. I am assuming that the woman in white represents my client and that the lion represents Taylor. The mother appears to be kind and gentle. She is wearing white that shows her intentions are pure. Taylor is clearly being submissive, but it doesn't look like Taylor is enjoying the experience. I would say that the mother is the person in charge and Taylor has chosen to let mom be in control. In the reverse position, which represents the past influence on Taylor's mental state, Strength is a much more challenging card. In general, Strength reversed can indicate emotional turbulence, obstacles, and blockages. When I look at the image on the reversed card, clearly Taylor's relationship with her mother, and also with herself, has literally turned upside down. It looks like a situation where Taylor is no longer letting her mom control her. Instead of the mom resting her hands inside Taylor's mouth like in the upright card, Taylor's snout appears to be trapped between her mother's outstretched hands. It looks like Taylor's mouth is being held closed so that she can't speak. It looks like Taylor believed that she could not speak the truth. I just want to interject something here about my skills as a tarot reader. If you've watched other videos of mine, you guys know that I've been very open about the fact that I am not an expert. I also know Taylor's mother, and she is one of the kindest, most loving women that I've ever met. So I really struggled with this interpretation because I know that, from the mom's viewpoint, she felt like she'd been extremely supportive of Taylor And I hope that this reading would prove that that was true. However, the purpose of this reading is to look at what is going on with Taylor, and that's what she asked me to do. And it looks to me that Taylor felt like she was not being allowed to express herself. So what I see is that Mom is trying to control what Taylor is saying, and that Taylor can no longer be tamed by her mother. The parent-child dynamic has flipped, and Taylor has become dominant over her mother. If you look at the position on the card, Taylor is in the top position and the mother has moved toward the bottom. In summary, the past influences on Taylor's mental state show that there has been a change in her personality and her relationship with her mother. The mother is no longer in control and can't make Taylor behave the way she did in the past. For her part, Taylor doesn't want to be in a relationship where she feels like she is being dominated, and she's gone from being a compliant little kitty to being a forceful king of the jungle. In card number 2, we will look at Taylor's current mental state, essentially what she is thinking and feeling today. The card I pulled was the 5 of Cups reversed. In the upright position, the 5 of Cups is a card about emotional turmoil, loss, mourning, and dwelling on the past. We see someone who is very focused on what they've lost, which are the 3 spilled cups at their feet. Not everyone would agree with this perspective, however, because there are upright cups behind them, so things aren't as bad as they appear. The reversed 5 of Cups can be interpreted as being more positive. It can indicate that Taylor is moving on from her difficult past and feels like she's moving to a place with a much happier state of mind. She's been able to deal with her feelings of sadness and loss, and now she sees her future as more positive. Her life is still turned upside down as it was in the Strength card, and she's clearly sad, but she's broken away from the bonds of her mother and has taken her power back, as the two are no longer a couple and the mother is no longer in the picture. However, when I look at the cups in the reverse position, which represent emotion, none of them have been refilled. So Taylor has to come to a place where she feels like she's in control of her emotions because the cups are either laying down on their sides or upside down. The 2 cups we saw in the upright card could represent Taylor and her mother. However, in the reverse, these cards are upside down and the contents will not stay inside. I think this shows that Taylor will not reconnect with her mom and they will remain estranged. Taylor is healing, but she is not making any room for her mom in her new life, and they will never be close. So in summary, Taylor is doing well currently. She's managed to navigate some of her past issues and is in a happier state of mind. However, she has no intention to reconcile with her mother. Card number 3 is the future outlook. It will give us information about what Taylor may be experiencing in the near future. And the card I drew is the 5 of Pentacles. It is interesting that this card shows 2 figures. The first is a young boy, which could represent Taylor as a male before his transition. And the second is an older female. We can't tell her age, but she appears to have gray hair and is stooped. And that could easily represent Taylor in her 50s now that she has transitioned. The young boy is often interpreted to have leprosy. Some of the symptoms of leprosy include skin lesions, nerve damage, and muscle weakness, all of which are evident by his bandages and crutches. People with leprosy also wore bells around their necks to let people know that they were coming so that people could get away and not catch it, even though leprosy was not that highly contagious. I think it's interesting that this reading is about someone who is trans, and I can see parallels because, sadly, trans people are often treated like lepers by certain groups of the population. And then we have the woman in front of him. I see this as the female version of Taylor who is still facing a lot of obstacles. She's walking barefoot through a snowstorm with her eyes downcast, and she's in front of a church, but she's not going in. To me, this indicates that she feels ostracized by a group that in theory should support her, or it might symbolize that she feels alienated from her faith. I feel like she has to feel very isolated if she's chosen to stay out in the cold when she could at least be warm inside a church. But maybe she knows that she won't be welcome and being cold is preferable to being ostracized. Taylor seems determined to keep moving forward despite the obstacles she is facing. In some ways, she has truly transformed from her younger, leper male version of herself. She's become a woman. She has survived. She has lost the bandages and the crutches and the bell. She is not looking to anyone but herself for help. And hopefully she's proud of herself for getting to this point. I think that Taylor feels like she is moving forward in a positive direction and relying on the only person she can, herself. She's broken free from her old identity, and she no longer feels that what she says is being controlled, and she's come to terms with a lot of the sadness in her life. So it might not be a future that looks appealing to most of us. After all, she's walking barefoot through the snow in the winter, but she's made her decisions and feels like it's the best for her under the circumstances. One thing I had to keep reminding myself about was that this was a reading about Taylor's mental state. So seeing her with no shoes, walking through the snow, did not mean that she was physically getting frostbite. It could be a metaphor for a cold, cruel world that she was managing to navigate independently. So let's summarize. The purpose of this reading was to answer the question, what is Taylor's current mental state? We looked at her past influences using the Strength card in the reverse position. We saw that her relationship with her mother had changed because Taylor no longer wanted to be her mom's sweet little kitty. She wanted to speak her big-ass lion truth. Next, we look at Taylor's current mental state, which is becoming more positive in the Five of Cups reversed. She was healing from past issues and seemed to have a brighter future. Finally, we looked at Taylor's future mental state, and we can see that she feels like she's made progress. She's had emotional healing. Nobody is controlling her. She's not a leper who is apologizing for who she is or trying to please other people. She's transitioned to becoming a female. She has come a long way, and she is continuing to move forward. My challenge was to remind myself that the purpose of this reading was to look at Taylor. I think most of us got into tarot readings because we are empathic and want to help people. And I really wanted to give my friend hope that she would be reunited with her daughter, that Taylor would say that all of the problems were on her end and her mom did everything right, and that their relationship would be restored and they would live happily ever after. Sadly, I didn't see any of that. However, my friend was comforted that Taylor seemed to have made progress and had achieved some level of peace, and sometimes that has to be enough. I hope that this video gave you some ideas that you can apply to your tarot practice when you're faced with a question about an estranged loved one. I'd love for you to leave some comments if you'd like to share what you've learned. And if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss anything. And I'll see you next time.